Have you ever wondered why, as soon as you start sensing that God is shifting you and moving you to like a different space, a different zone, just he's doing something in your life that all of a sudden random people start contacting you? Random as in you don't really know them like that, or people that you know that you haven't talked to randomly reaching out. I'm gonna tell you why that is. You may be like me right now, where you fully recognize that where God has you is not the season that you just came out of. And so the difference between God and the enemy is that God works in seasons and through seasons, while the enemy works through cycles. And he tries to keep you in the same cycle. And you'll notice that when people start coming around, there might be, and people, when I say coming around, it may not be physically, it could be text messages or phone calls that are popping up out of the blue, seemingly, right? But it's really a targeted distraction. And I need you to recognize that, because if you don't, then you might fall into the same cycle that you were in before, whether it's people getting you wrapped up in their drama, whether it's people trying to pull you back to where you were, whether it's an emotional thing or just people trying to stir things up. You'll notice that people all of a sudden start asking you questions like, hey, what's going on with you? So what's happening? And these are not the people that have been reaching out before. Now, I know some of you might think, well, sometimes people just reach out to people, after not speaking to them in a while. Or sometimes, we might even reach out to people after not speaking to them for a while. That can happen. But you will sense, if your discernment is turned on, you will sense whether or not this is coming from a genuine place or not. And I'll give you a couple of examples without trying to go into too many details, because as much as I want to share stuff sometimes, it's just not the time for it, because I have to be careful about what I say, how I say it, and not giving the enemy room to come in based on what I'm sharing, okay? Because I know that my words, they have an effect. They have power to them, because God gives us power in our tongue, right? Like what we speak, it carries weight. So that can go for good or bad. And I want to be careful about what I'm saying. But there are people who reach out to you and all of a sudden they want to know what's going on in your life. Like, oh, hey, so what's happening? Like, what's going on? And you'll be able to tell whether or not it's genuine, because after the conversation, first of all, how are you feeling during the conversation? That's important to note. Like, do you feel like it's genuine, or do you literally feel like somebody's fishing for information? So then after that conversation happens, whether on the phone, in person, a text message, are they still reaching out to you? Are they still talking to you? Are they still checking in? Or was this literally a phishing scam where they came in to gather information to try to figure out what's going on in your life so that they can try to do things within their own sphere of influence or whatever it is to try to downplay, talk you out of, or just go against what it is that God is doing in your life? I already know some of you think I'm being too deep, but it's not. Have you ever noticed that as soon as you're not thinking about your past or past relationships, all of a sudden an ex shows back up in the picture? An ex pops back up? This is because they are sensing in the spirit realm that God is trying to do something in your life, okay? And so recently, I've had at least 6 people randomly that I do not talk to. And it may not even be for bad or negative reasons, but we don't talk. And I distinctly remember that in my last season, God told me that he was making it clear who was for me and who was not. So if those people showed in that last season, in whatever way that God made that clear that they were not for me, if they're showing up now, then they're not the people that are supposed to go forward with me at close proximity into what God is doing next in my life. People really want to see if they still have access to you. You won't hear from them. They're watching everything that you do. They're watching you online. They're watching, what you post. They're watching what you do, but they don't say anything. And then out of nowhere, you might get a text from them like, oh, I miss you so much. We really have to catch up. But then you don't really hear anything again after they start trying to catch up with you and get more information about what's going on. So I just want y'all to be on the lookout, because the season and place that we're walking into, God is saying access denied. Access is denied. This place that I'm taking you, they can't go. They did not walk through that valley season with you. So when you get to the mountaintop, no, they don't have the access because they did not walk alongside you on that journey. Literally, people are going to be coming for you, reaching out. Literally, you guys got to understand that everything is spirit first, and then it's in the natural, then it's in this physical realm. You can sense when God is doing something different in your life and moving things around and positioning you for your next. And so when people start popping up out of nowhere, they're trying to figure out what's going on because they're no longer close enough to see with their own eyes what's happening. So they're trying to figure out if they can wiggle their way back in. They're reaching out to you because they're picking up on something in the spirit realm. They're picking up on your name and what's happening. And all of a sudden, they realize that they don't have the same access point to you anymore. And so God is letting you know, he is reminding you that what he is doing is so intentional and it is on his calendar. He has a set time and date for what he wants to do in your life. And the access that these people once had to you has been denied. Not because you said so, but because God said so. And your only job right now is to align with what it is that he's saying in this season. If you recognize that God is trying to do something in your life right now, then you need to understand that it is up to you to steward that well. It is up to you to protect what it is that he's doing in your life, through you and for you. Not everybody can go. Even when we want to take them along, that is what sometimes holds us up from what it is that God is doing. But so many of us have come out of that space and place. And God is saying, yes, you see that you're in a different place. You may not be able to see everything right now that God is going to do manifest in the natural yet, okay? But you see it spiritually. And it's up to you to guard yourself and to know that when people start popping up out of nowhere, and again, no, I'm not talking about people who are genuinely checking in on you to figure out how you're doing. I'm talking about when you get that feeling of, why are they asking me this? Why are they trying to get information out of me? Because I remember in a season where I was almost going to be evicted and I reached out to family for help and I needed somebody to maybe, take me and my kids in or do something to try to avoid that situation. That's just one example. Those people cut me off. They didn't have anything to say. They didn't have words of encouragement. They left you high and dry. I'm not kidding. If y'all see, sometimes I feel like I'm not really making as much sense as I want to when I'm talking, because I know what I'm saying and I know what I'm talking about. In the last video I posted, which was on my birthday, so it says it's my birthday, I included a prophetic word that I received on there from a complete stranger. Now, the person is no longer a stranger, even though we're just acquainted through ministry at this point, but that person identified where I am in this walk, in this season right now, and clearly spoke to where I am and said, God is dealing with the people who left you, abandoned you, who left you to figure things out on your own when they had the means to assist. And I'm not talking just about this. I'm not talking about money. That's not it. It's about when you are literally in a dry season where it's your wilderness, okay? That is where God shows you who's for you and who is not. So I need you to remember that. I need you to remember not to hold on to stuff, not to harbor unforgiveness. It's not that at all. It's just with clarity and discernment, recognizing, okay, God, these are the people that you blocked from walking with me through that season. So they are not the ones that I can take with me. Y'all pray for them, okay? Pray for them, but they can't go with you. Because if you don't want to be held up, if you don't want this next season to end up with the setbacks that can come from us making wrong turns and things, God has grace, absolutely. But there are times that we can make decisions that set us back. If you don't want that, then I need you to hear this message from God that says access denied. It's not because you're doing it. You don't think you're better than anybody. It's not that at all. But you recognize what God has put on the inside of you. And with everything in you, you are guarding that with your life. You're guarding your heart, which the word tells us to do. So you're honoring God, you're honoring your Father when you set up the proper boundaries and you don't allow people who haven't been along this journey with you to walk with you into your next season. Wish them well, pray for them, but they cannot go with you. They're reaching out all of a sudden because they're trying to figure out what's going on, what is happening. They sense and recognize you are not the same anymore. They were okay with you before when you were in the valley season, but they cannot handle where it is that God is taking you. And if you want to protect what it is that God is doing in your life, then you need to recognize the signs of when people are trying to access you and get information from you. Because I'm speaking from experience. These monitoring spirits don't care about anything. They will even try to get your children to say and do things or get information out of your children. This is why you have to be extremely prayed up and on guard when it comes to the season that God is shifting you into. Okay? So I want you to just make sure that you are protecting what it is that God has given you, that He has given you. He trusts you with what He gave you. And so it is up to you to make sure that nothing comes in to take it away or snatch it away, because the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And he would love to knock you right back down to where he thinks you were before. But you got this. Stay strong. You are not the only one experiencing this. You are not going crazy. It's not just in your head that all of a sudden people are reaching out to you. No. They're just trying to get information about what it is that God is doing in your life, because I'm telling you, people really are that messed up sometimes. They may not realize it. They may not understand that they're being led by spirits that are not of God, but that's what's happening. And you really can recognize it if your spiritual senses are heightened and if you are continually seeking God for discernment. So I hope this helps. You're not by yourself, but stay on guard and protect what it is that God is doing in your life, through you and for you. Boundaries are so important, and God wants you to have them.